think there's a kind of new age of fan for F1 that's kind of helping out the likes of F2 and the F3 guys now as well. I think Drive to Survive on Netflix has helped quite a lot. There's a more younger generation, it seems like now, that like watch the sport, and I think because of that they liked, they hear about F2, it's Formula One, it's the next thing is Formula Two, and most of you guys now in F2 you have quite a decent following, like sometimes more than Indy drivers or Formula E drivers, and I guess a lot of it is coming from the F1.
I think they're doing a really good job. I still think it's not as leveled up as the MotoGP stuff. I think MotoGP is actually the number one for these things. Like if you see a race weekend, they actually treat MotoGP, Moto2, Moto3 a lot. I would say not perfectly, but like a lot better than Formula 2, Formula 3.
It's very equal.
Yeah, and for sure, you know a lot more than me, but it's I think they're on this path, like trying to make people that races in F2 and F3 quite big as well. Of course, in Moto2 and Moto3, they earn money with this, and not all of them, some. And in Formula 2, Formula 3, we actually have to pay a lot. So that's, I think, the biggest difference, and that's what they have to work on. But obviously, having more following, we can find more sponsors and stuff like that.
I think what MotoGP does so well, and Moto3 and Moto2, is that the fact that Moto3 and those 250s, the Moto3 bikes, all the teams on those bikes, they're the highest level of that bike in the world. That championship is the pinnacle of that bike. Moto2 is the same. It's the pinnacle of that bike. And I think what, maybe F1 could take in F2 and F3 is that you guys are, I know we said about like the tire temperature sensors. You guys are at the pinnacle of those cars in the world. So like, maybe the level needs to be, the respect, not respect, but it needs to be sort of like, right, these guys are at the absolute top of these cars in the world. Forget about going up a step to F1, but just look at that step there, that we're at the top of these cars and pushing them to the limit, because that's what MotoGP is. You go to a MotoGP weekend and you're going to watch the best small bike racing, the best middleweight bike racing, and the best big bike racing. And in an essence, that's what F1 is. F1's the best, the fastest big cars in the world, the fastest sort of middleweight cars, and the fastest junior cars.
No, I mean, I would love to see. We touched on it again in the previous episode. Everyone would have watched. Obviously, everyone would have watched it.
Everybody.
That I would like to see a world where in the next 10 years, maybe sort of watching it as maybe coming the later phase of my career and sort of seeing these junior drivers in F3 and F2 sort of get the benefit of what F1 is doing with Liberty and sort of making the fan base bigger. I mean, the cost is obviously massive to do F2 and F3, and it's a lot more than I guess what Moto2 and Moto3 will be. So I don't think you'll get a situation where people will be getting paid like you sometimes get in Moto2 and Moto3. But I'd like to see like the teams become more like their own, like stand out on their own. Like maybe the marketing or the advertising, the way it works is better. The Virtuosis, High-Tech, Premers, Carlins can all have big sponsors on the car, and they can make the cost of it cheaper to the guys. It makes it more accessible to more people to do the championships. And I would like to see that a lot more, because at the moment it's obviously like if you're I was privileged enough to be able to do F3, but if you're able to, if you don't have the money, you can't do it basically. And there will always be an element of that. I'd like to see it come down. I don't know if you think the same, Felipe.
Yeah, for sure. As you said, it would be really nice to see the teams being treated as you said, like the pinnacle of each category, and also it's pretty obvious to see if you watch a MotoGP and Moto3 race, you see the sponsors in each team is like really big sponsors for what you maybe, I think, coming from motorsport or from Formula 2, Formula 3, you think those teams are small, but they're actually quite a lot bigger than actually Formula 2 and Formula 3 are, but not because they want, just because they let them develop themselves. And the sponsors is quite mad into motors.
Yeah, well, it's like we had Jan Deruvla on, and we talked about Red Bull, obviously, and Red Bull have got they've got Tech 3, Tech 3, and they've got the Red Bull KTM IO squad, and they both run KTMs. And Red Bull this year have got their full proper Red Bull sponsorship on both bikes. So if you look at them from watching the TV, you can't tell the difference between the four riders because they're all Red Bull branded. And I think it's like, from an outside perspective, you never see a Carlin t-shirt. You never see, you never see a Trident t-shirt, whatever team, it doesn't matter. But you never see brands of the teams. And it would bring so much more value to the teams and the championship and the drivers, especially, because at the end of the day, the drivers are what people also don't realize about bikes or cars is that at the end of the day, it's them who are bringing the budget, and it's them who's putting the most in as well. I'm training probably as much as the guys in World Superbikes, MotoGP. You guys are training as much as Formula One drivers to be fit and be at your level. So it's almost that we're taking the big risks here, but not sort of getting the rewards of the top. But again, it's a journey, isn't it? And if we can make the junior series, like I think MotoGP has done so well, make those on more of a level with the top, it's going to be a lot better for the whole sport as a general.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we see with F2 and F3 is like the drivers that obviously the cars that have Red Bull or whatever sponsorship over it because of the driver is a Red Bull junior, let's say. But in Moto 2 and Moto 3, they are Red Bull sponsored teams.
Yeah.
And I would just love to see that, in whatever how many years' time that, because I don't understand why not. Why do F2 and F3 teams not have sponsors?
No,
because especially now, I would imagine the viewership that especially F2 has is only growing all the time. And I feel like it should be seen as its own thing rather than just a junior category where the teams can actually go out and source big sponsorship deals that maybe bring the cost down by half or something.
But also the interesting thing is in MotoGP, you look at the MotoGP teams, for example, and a few Moto2. Yamaha is sponsored by Monster as a factory, as a title. Suzuki sponsored by Monster. Red Bull's KTM. Aprilia is sponsored by Sky, I think still. Mission Winnow sponsor Ducati. They're big names. And then Moto2 is the same. Red Bull on the KTM. Estrella Galicia still have input into teams and riders. These are huge companies.
Yeah. I think, I'd like to think in the next few years we might start to see a move to that. But yeah, that's definitely not where it is right now.